For the next 60 seconds or so, I want to talk about introducing parents at a wedding reception or grandparents. I think that most of us do this, but I see a lot of DJs not understanding the importance of this and sort of doing a throwaway. They're introducing the parents the same way they are the wedding party. They're just, throwing them in with the wedding party. And especially the high energy DJs, it's funny to me, you hear a DJ do the monster truck voice for the parents and like, please welcome the mother of the bride and the father of the bride. Here they are. And, they come walking in very distinguished looking, 55-year-old people, and it doesn't really fit. The introduction of the parents and grandparents, for me, I introduce grandparents as often as possible, can be a really important thing. One of the things that I learned to do a long time ago is I most of the time introduce the parents already in the room. I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it lets the parents get in the room sooner. They don't have to stay outside and wait for the entire wedding party to arrive, right? So they can be in the room, visiting and being at their table. And then I just acknowledge them at their table, which also makes for a really good warm-up as I do that and go through those introductions into the wedding party, so sort of ramping that up. Beyond that, then we can get really creative with how we do introductions. If you're fortunate enough, we don't get this a lot in California, but if we're fortunate enough to be able to have parents who've been married a long time, it's really nice to be able to say, first I'd like to introduce Susie's parents, Jim and Stephanie Johnson, who have been married for 28 years. And so everybody claps. Or you can reverse that. Married for 28 years, Stephanie's parents, Jim and Susie Johnson, right? So however you want to do that, but you certainly want to finish with an applause line at the end. And then if you have grandparents who've been married a long time, that can be really cool when you're now saying married for 54 years. It's a pretty neat way to acknowledge them. Now there's some, especially here in California, I rarely get that where we just are able to introduce, 2 sets of parents and 4 sets of grandparents. Generally, you've got divorces and deaths and everything else that goes with it. So you have to be a little bit careful. I personally try to avoid the approach of step parents. There's a lot of ways that it can be done depending on the relationship. So sometimes it's, Susie's mom, so-and-so, and her husband, Jim, right? So you can do it like that. You can just say parents, and sometimes there's 2 sets of parents, and so we can go through it that way. I won't say never say step parents, it's up to the bride and groom, but generally when given better alternatives, they'll choose better alternatives. You have to also be a little bit careful of recent deaths or divorces. So if you have, you don't want to say, here's the grandparents of the groom who have been married for 58 years, and then here's the grandmother of the bride who has, was widowed last year. And that comes up all the time. It's just a question that you have to ask. How's the family doing with this? How's grandma doing with this? What other acknowledgments are we doing? And you can figure out ways to do that. But when you start with those acknowledgments, it's a big deal for the parents. They've put a lot into doing all of this. The wedding, money, time, years of raising their child. It's nice for them to be acknowledged. So do it with something other than just, the grand yelling of the names. A little bit of something of who they are. And if you're lucky enough to have people that have been married a long time, by all means acknowledge that. It's a really cool thing. There's some other things you can do with that as well. And listen, sometimes we do the parents, coming in the room, the big high energy thing, because that's who the parents are and it's what the bride and groom want. I'm fine with that too. But I found over the last 20 years ago or more, I started doing it this way with the parents in the room, and I give them the option. And 95% of my clients choose to have the parents already in the room and not coming in as part of the wedding party. So give them that option. I think you'll have a lot more fun with it, and really a great way to acknowledge the parents. Hope that works. My 60 seconds are just about up. See you next week.